If you were to tell this kid here he was going to be a 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time NFL sack leader, have 5 touchdowns, star in movies, be on the cover of multiple magazines, a star on the red carpet, and become one of the most dominant players the NFL has ever seen, a scrawny kid his size would probably deny all that. But even before JJ grew into his size at 6'5", 290 pounds, and all those accolades came true, he was just a local kid in Wisconsin delivering pizza for Pizza Hut. So stay tuned to find out the evolution of Justin James Watt. We're going to find out how some of his injuries changed the way he plays today and his 4 key attributes that separates him from his coworkers.
And my first day on the job, you're like this. My first day on the job at Pizza Hut, one of my coworkers said, "What's your story?" I said, "I'm going to go play for the Badgers. I'm only here for about 4 or 5 months." He said, "Badgers?" And he looked me up and down and he said, "You're not big enough to play for the Badgers. Good luck."
Justin James Watt was born on March 22nd, 1989 in Wisconsin, to Connie, a building operations vice president, and John Watt, a firefighter. He is the oldest of his brothers, who were also fortunate enough to make the NFL as well and play for the Steelers, Derek and TJ Watt. But before JJ became a quarterback sack-eating monster, he was actually sliding around on the ice with a hockey stick and a puck. From ages 4 to 13, he played on different travel teams and played different opponents across the U.S., but he also was doing his thing on the football field, and even told his elementary teacher that he was going to make it to the NFL one day.
He said, "Mrs. Keefe, I'd really like to play for the Badgers."
Being from Wisconsin, he was a diehard Badger and Green Bay Packers fan. Not living far from Lambeau Field, he would sometimes stand outside the fence and watch them practice, sometimes be a part of the bike rides, and even stood in the players' parking lot to try to get autographs.
I've looked through these fences as a kid and watched practice, watched Brett Favre practice. I've seen the bike tradition. I've stood outside the gates by the players' lot and tried to get autographs.
At that time, Brett Favre was taking snaps in the backfield, who he idolized. And once JJ reached high school at Pewaukee High, he started out as a quarterback. He was your average QB, being a tall, lanky kid who could launch the ball down the field. But for some reason, he couldn't do one thing.
JJ was struggling with that bubble screen.
Unable to throw a screen route, he lost the QB job and was moved to DN and tight end, where he was able to truly blossom as a player. Going into his junior season, his father took JJ to a local gym where they would work out all summer long, mornings and nights, to put some meat on his bones. And once he started to grow into his body, the kid dominated the offensive line or anybody trying to stop him. After finishing his junior year and earning all conference honors, unfortunately, the summer going into his senior year, he caught mono, which limited him to any football activities. His recovery phase forced him to miss all the multiple schools and combines that would have given him opportunities like some of his peers received.
Recruiting process, I actually could not go to any camps because I had mono for a whole month. So all my recruiting process, the whole camp schedule got canceled.
But it only motivated him to attack the field harder once he was able to fully return. And his senior year, he earned the Woodland Conference Player of the Year award, first team All-State, All-County, All-Area, and All-Conference as a tight end and defensive end. He was also named the team's MVP. Unable to attend camps and get his name into the recruiting circuit, he was able to put together a solid highlight tape, in which a few offers started to show up.
2 offers right now. I got an offer from Wyoming and an offer from Central Michigan, and I'm taking visits to a lot of schools.
Which helped get a slow recruiting process going, followed by Minnesota, Northern Illinois, Colorado, but he only received crickets from his dream college, University of Wisconsin. The 2-star recruit then settled with Central Michigan, but once he arrived, it was nothing like he expected to be. On a loaded Central Michigan team, plus being teammates with Antonio Brown, JJ was on scholarship for tight end. Coaches even wanted him to try out at the tackle position, which didn't sit right with him at all. But after 1 year of playing in 14 games, he only received 8 receptions for 77 yards. He still had that goal to make the NFL and knew if he was going to make it, being at Central Michigan playing tight end wasn't going to be the place for him to reach that accomplishment.
I believe I only caught 8 passes for somewhere around 77 yards. And so I realized that if I wanted to accomplish my goal of someday playing in the NFL, I had to kind of make a change.
So after that 1 year, he packed his bags and headed back home. It was a huge gamble, but it turned out to be the best move that he ever made. With no other option, he had to walk on at Wisconsin and needed help from his parents to cover 1 year of tuition, but he made a promise to him, saying that he was going to get a full ride scholarship and take the stress of the tuition bill away from them.
At that point in my life, I was taking a massive gamble, and a whole lot of people thought that I was going to lose that bet.
And to show them how serious he was, he even got a job at the local Pizza Hut just to save up and have something go towards the bill, which was a huge humbling experience for him after just playing on national TV to being a pizza delivery guy in his hometown. This is what he had to say about the experience.
I delivered the pizza to his door, and he knew me. I could tell he was a little football playing kid. And he looked at me and he said, "Mom, J.J. Watt's here." And he was all excited because he knew I was on TV playing for the Central Michigan. And then I said, "I have your pizza." And he looked back at his mom like, "Mom, why does J.J. Watt deliver my pizza? He's the guy on TV." And I went back to my car, and I never cried. A lot of stories say I cried and did this, but it was one of those moments that relit the flame inside of me. I'd always had a plan. I knew I was going to Wisconsin in June, but that was one of those moments. It's like, I want to get back on top. I want to be back to greatness, be back to where I want to be, and I want to be even better than I was before.
Once he finally arrived at the university, he switched back to defensive end and went from being a walk-on to being named the Badgers Defensive Scout Team Player of the Year as a D-end in 2008 while being a redshirt. And in 2009, as a sophomore, he became a scholarship player before he ever took an actual down for Wisconsin and made a huge impact for the Badgers defense over the next 2 years. He played in all 13 games in 2009, totaling 44 tackles with 32 solo tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 5 passes defended. He shined in 2010, totaling 62 tackles, 21 for loss, and 42 solo, 7 sacks, 1 interception, 9 passes defended, and 3 forced fumbles in 13 games. In addition to being named the second-team All-American and first-team All-Big Ten, he was also voted to the team's MVP his junior season. Let those 2 seasons alone be a statement that your first choice isn't always your best choice. He then decided to forgo his senior year and enter the 2011 NFL Draft. After showcasing his skills at the Combine, he solidified himself as the top defensive end in the draft, where the Texans selected him with the 11th overall pick. But Houston fans did not agree with that pick.
That's it. You can get this guy in the middle of the round. If you're going to pick him, move down and pick him. Don't waste an 11th pick on him.
I've been disappointed people, and that's fine with me. I've been doubted before, and I have confidence in myself as a football player.
And after a shallow first season with only 5.5 sacks on the year, it wasn't until the 2011 playoffs when the fans truly saw his potential and fell in love with him.
Intercepted by J.J. Watt. Touchdown, Houston. Touches. J.J. Watt. He's fired up, and so is this crowd. Dalton in trouble. Sack. J.J. Watt.
And from that moment on, the rest is history. He followed the next season with 69 solo tackles, 39 tackles for loss, and 20.5 sacks, winning his first of his Defensive Player of the Year awards. 2014 was also a statement year that made him an all-around player, as he lined up in the backfield at fullback and even revisited his Central Michigan days as he lined up as a tight end as well.
Fitzpatrick to the air, wide open touchdown. Screen, they go his way. Watt! No signal yet. He's saying he's got it. And he does! Another touchdown!
3rd and 12, and the ball's out. And recovered by Watt. He's on his feet. He was never touched down. Could he have his 3rd touchdown of the season? Yes, he does. J.J. Watt. It's 32. Texans coming to blitz. Manuel intercepted by Watt. And the big fella lumbering inside the 40. No one is going to catch Watt into the end zone for the pick 6.
He scored a total of 4 touchdowns that season, having a career of 5 touchdowns altogether. He also won his second Defensive Player of the Year award in 2014 with another 20.5 sacks, and bounced back with his 3rd Defensive Player of the Year award just the next season in 2015. But just because he was able to put up great numbers on the stat sheet, he also had a few roadblocks along the way, starting with injuries. Being a 6'5", 290-pound guy is kinda hard avoiding nicks and dings. Starting in 2012 with torn elbow ligaments, which is the reason why he wears his huge arm brace today.
It's his elbow. We're going to take a look at it. Hopefully everything will be okay.
2013, the nose. It wasn't bad enough for him to miss any games, but he did joke about considering plastic surgery after cutting his nose open multiple times.
He broke my nose. Okay, stop crying.
2015, the broken hand. He played the entire 2015 season and played a couple games with a broken hand. 2016, back issues. He had back surgery in the offseason of 2016, played just 3 games, and then had to have season-ending back surgery. 2017, broken leg. He played through a finger injury for much of the first 5 games of the season before breaking his leg in October against the Chiefs. The surgery to fix his fracture kept him out for 11 games. 2019, torn pectoral. He started off playing well in 2019 before tearing his pectoral in Week 8 against the Raiders. At the time, JJ was leading the NFL in quarterback pressures and still led the Texans in that stat despite playing half the season. His surgery was expected to keep him out for the rest of the season, but he worked his way back into the lineup before the season ended. And through all that, since the time he first got into the NFL, the furthest he ever got to play was in the divisional round of the playoffs from 2011 to 2019, as they was knocked out every year. But when the man is healthy, he is a true monster. His ability to disrupt opposing offense is well known. Over the course of his 10-year career, 128 games, he has registered 101 sacks, 531 tackles, 409 solo, 172 for loss, 25 forced fumbles, and 61 passes defended. Watt could be on the pace to shatter the NFL record for total sacks if he never got injured. Bruce still holds the record with 200 total sacks in 18 seasons. If JJ plays for a full 18 seasons, averaging his normal .86 sacks per game, he will reach 247 career sacks. But there is 4 major things that separates JJ from his colleagues. Number 1, being his athleticism. Rarely do you hear about a 6'5", 290-pound defensive end chasing down running backs with ease. But that is exactly what JJ is capable of. His athleticism shows up on every single play. He consistently uses it to make plays in both the pass and run game. He could catch a speedy running back from behind and then drop it to coverage the next play. He also uses his athleticism to consistently bat down balls at the line of scrimmage and close a quarterback throwing lane, which leads us to number 2, his strength. Not only is JJ an incredible athlete, but he has combined his great athleticism with unbelievable strength. His bull rush is impeccable, and he could also take a double team and shed blockers with ease to make plays. The incredible thing about JJ's strength is that it does not affect his speed, agility, or quickness at all. In fact, he combines his strength with all those other natural abilities to be nearly unstoppable at the point of attack. And with all those natural abilities leads us to our third point, versatility. He has the unique ability to play either defensive end or defensive tackle, tight end, fullback, hell, wherever placing a 6'5" guy is necessary. It is the versatility that just adds Watt to the status as one of the best players the NFL has ever seen. And for the fourth and final one, production. Scouts don't simply look at production to determine the best player, but the player's abilities on the field have to create some type of production. In terms of Watt, his overall abilities easily show up in his stats. His pass pressures while pass rushing were easily the most for a 3-4 defensive end. He consistently finds a way to get to the quarterback despite offenses specifically making a game plan to stop him. So not only does he have the full physical tools that scouts love in a defensive end, but he uses those tools to make play after play. I can't say it enough, his numbers are incredible, but what truly separates him from other stars across the league is how he handles himself off the field. His leadership, preparation, and daily practice habits all help with the things he's able to achieve on the field. It's going to be extremely interesting to see how he's able to do in Arizona after spending the last 10 years in Houston. Based on a financial data, Watt has earned over $74 million to date in the NFL, not including endorsements and television work. In the movie Bad Moms and the TV series New Girl in the League, it is safe to assume that that is a nice raise from his weekly Pizza Hut paycheck. But for someone who has had a hell of a ride, this is some words of encouragement from JJ that he will want you to know.
When you figure your dream out, remember, it will not be a straight path. Stay committed. Never lose sight of what it is you want to accomplish. Don't be afraid to ask for help along the way. And don't be afraid to help others along their path. Remember that there will be dark days. You will go through difficult times, but they are learning opportunities. They're growing opportunities. You can come out on the other side better than you went in.